Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, and today we're going to look at 5 decks that I don't expect to be negatively affected by the patch tomorrow. 5 decks I think that post-patch you can immediately take on your climb to Infinite. Tomorrow's video will be recorded before the patch, just so you know. So what I'm going to look at is 5 fun decks you can play for your post-Infinite journey. Now, before we go any further, I want you to like and subscribe. I'm going to explain why you should like and sub and ring that notification bell. First, we got great content every single weekday. You don't have to believe me. Watch this whole video. By the end, you're going to realize you're going to get a discussion, insights you're not getting from other people. I'm not just going to tell you how to play the decks. I'm going to tell you why they're good. I'm going to give you different choices on what to play. The other reason, our boys Cozy, Bootman, KM make a video, and that deck is all over ladder. I'm going to do the work to find you the best decks around, but because we're a smaller channel, other people aren't going to know about these decks. One of our viewers last season hit Infinite in a day with that Stature Darkhawk deck that's everywhere. But because I'm obsessive about this straight up, I went and I found it before anyone else knew about it. So by watching these videos, you're going to get some cool stuff before everyone else knows it's there. So make sure you like, sub, ring that notification bell. First deck we're going to talk about is real simple, right on your screen. This is Teeb's Jeff Dog. It is Lockjaw and Jeff deck. It is real simple. Your snap condition is basically, do I have Lockjaw on 3 and anything I can play into it? If you don't have Lockjaw, though, don't fret. You win a fair amount of games without Lockjaw. Just make sure you hold your Wasp in hand. You can confidently play Jeff on 2. He's there mostly because he's nice to pop out of Lockjaw, but you can confidently hold your Jeff on 2. Play your Jeff on 2. On 3, if you don't have Lockjaw, you play Thor. Almost no matter what, on 4, you're playing Dracula. Take a look at your hand. As long as your hand, you can tell, isn't going to be completely full of nonsense, you want to get Dracula out. Dracula is almost always at least a 4/9. Amazing value. However, if your whole hand is your low-cost stuff, once in a while, you're going to want to drop Jubilee instead on 4. Do you drop Jubilee into Lockjaw? Yes, but not as often as you might think. You don't want to fill Lockjaw that quickly because of the change to Lockjaw. Because you can now play multiple things, 2 things on Lockjaw and have the second one stay, a really strong last turn of the game is very often a Wasp or a Mjolnir into Lockjaw while you also play a Magneto or Giganto in that spot to make sure that you win that lane or to pull over their stuff. Or Doom to get a bunch of cards all over the place. It's a really strong play. 5 is obviously Jane. If you didn't see Jane, you're playing Dracula or Jubilee. I tend not to really love Thor on turn 5, even if I have Lockjaw out. I know I'm not going to draw Mjolnir at that point, and I don't really want it coming out. But I'm also fairly often, if I went Thor, Dracula, but then I've drawn Lockjaw at some point in there, assuming I have Wasp or Mjolnir in hand, my turn 5 will be Lockjaw and Wasp, or Lockjaw and Jeff, or Lockjaw Mjolnir. Last turn, the single card I'm most likely to play is Dr. Doom, as aside from the 1 cost. Doom spreading that power out is a really good way to get that game. The other most likely card I am to play on 6 is Magneto. Now, this version of the deck is not played Magneto is to move everything around, if that wasn't completely clear. A lot of the really powerful stuff in the current meta is Darkhawk-based decks, and Magneto does a lot to screw up their math to make it so they can't be sure how and where they will win. Now, as I was saying, this version of the deck isn't played a lot, but Janejaw has like a 60% win rate. It's got as good of a win rate as the very best Darkhawk decks. Since it's got such a good win rate, you should really be looking into playing it. Deck is stellar. All right. Next up, we have Patriot. Patriot went away because Enchantress was buffed way too high. Obvious, right? Well, turns out, with this type of Patriot, with Iron Lad, you can overload the opponent's ability to shut you down. How you do that is Iron Lad is hopefully hitting Iron Man, Patriot, Onslaught, or Mystique. or Blue Marvel, and then you play them all in different lanes, use Iron Man as a way to like combine power and win. This is the generic Patriot. KM Best made this deck while I was chilling in his chat. It immediately started dominating. Deck is absolutely sick. This isn't the deck we're here to talk about today. Got him. Everyone knows KM Best decks. I built my own version. I called it Bast Lad. Ignore the 2 little stars. I started doing that and was like, I don't actually care. This has the same basic theory, except it uses the Bast version of the deck, which means you're very often skipping turn 2, 3. Iron Lad here has amazing hits. Iron Lad hitting Iron Man, Blue Marvel, Brood, Patriot, Sinister, Mystique, or Hood are all good. You don't. Hitting Bast is actually sometimes reasonably powerful as well if you have like your Iron Man, Patriot, etc. in hand. Mysterio's a bad hit, but Mysterio plus Bast. Mysterio plus Bast plus Patriot is basically the same stats as Doom, which means that you kind of have to play it. The card that I'm least sold on is Debris. Debris is here largely because she gets into every lane and as a counter to Galactus. Turns out, on turn 5, if I can read where they're Galactusing, I drop Iron Man, and then turn 6, I drop like Mystique or drop a bunch of stuff on that Iron Man, and I just win that matchup anyway. It's not a huge concern. Now, you can scroll down here and see that this deck has barely been played over here. It's 2-1, net cubes 2. Well, I played it while I was on my computer, which means Untapped was running. My Untapped win rate is 77%, 10-3 plus 29 cubes. Absolutely bonkers win rate, crazy good deck, crazy powerful. The key to playing it is to basically never ever play anything on 1. You play Bast on 2 if you see it. If not, you can play Mysterio. You almost never play Mysterio. Sorry, if not Sinister, you almost never play Mysterio on 2. On 3, your goal is to Patriot. You can do worse than Debris if you're not reading a kill deck. I'm telling you, Debris might have to go. There's just too much destroy in the meta right now. Like, feeding them is very bad. But you can Patriot if the board is looking clear. At that point, you know all 3 locations. Is the board going to get clogged? Is your opponent playing board clog? If not, feel free to Brood then. 4, you basically always, unless you're Patrioting, you basically always want to Iron Lad. You want to see what you hit. Now, the key is, if I have Iron Man on 5, I'm playing Iron Man on 5. I'm very likely to get a big boost out on 6. Now, the reason I might change Debris for Squirrel Girl is if I Iron Man on 5, I would like something that goes wide on 6 if I need to Blue Marvel on 6 to pump that Iron Man. Cool. Having that 1 drop, that extra 1 drop is really important. Right now, that's very often the Demon, but not always. After Iron Manning, my main goal is to Mystique. Ideally, one of the 2 is hit by Bast for an awful lot of power in that lane as a big surprise. If I've got Iron Lad out, so much the better. If I've got Patriot out, everything is at least a 3, if not an actual 5. This is crazy strong. This is super powerful. I want you to 1, play this deck, and 2, tell me how you do with it. If I were climbing to Infinite, this is the deck that I plan to, although honestly, I've clearly got deck... I clearly have problems settling in on a deck and sticking with it. So, whatever. Don't be afraid. All right. The other deck I played a lot, just shout out. This isn't one of the decks on the list, but this is my current Surfer build, and it's just dominating. Like, it is crazy strong. I cut the Goose package because everyone was going under it with She-Hulk, and it was just costing me more games than it was winning me. I added Jeff because everyone's playing Storm right now. Everyone's playing Professor X. It gets me those wins. And I made sure to find space for Rogue over longtime favorite Mr. Fantastic in that last spot, with the idea that Devil Dino, Darkhawk, even just stealing a Zabu can ruin their day. I won an 8-cuber, not on Steam yesterday, but I won an 8-cuber with it, just stealing a Devil Dino and being like, well, that's my lane. And then one of the other lanes was stormed. And so even though they were humongous in the other place, it didn't matter. And they were humongous in the Darkhawk spot, but then I was the big one. All right, so look, if you get good with Surfer, you're just going to win like 60% of your games, 57 to 60% of your games at a good cube rate. People forgot how to snap on it. They don't do the math. They don't think about what you could have. So, like, don't be afraid to start playing Surfer again. Also, don't be afraid if you do play Surfer. Pro tip, don't feel like you're forced to play Sarah on 5. If Jeff or Scorpion with a 3 seems better, don't be afraid to. Although, read Wave. If Wave is going to be played, Sarah is extremely important. All right. That's that random bonus deck. Next up, we have the Guardians deck. The Guardians Daredevil deck. We're highlighting this because our boy Savage Yeti, Savage Yeti YT _ gaming, just hit Infinite with this deck. I'm going to throw his video in the description to this one. I played this deck a little bit. It is fantastic. We got a video coming later this week about Invisible Power. Invisible Power is Nebula in a nutshell. Everyone goes, her power is that she's a 1 that gets big. No. You're confused. Her power is that she's a 1 that tells your opponent where to play. And then you have the ability to decide by seeing what they're going to play, forcing their hand and playing things. Can I go bigger than them there, or do I want to play elsewhere? This deck further emphasizes that power by playing Rocket, Star-Lord, and Gamora to get bigger if they do decide to play there on the turns you're fighting. It's got armor to make sure that Nebula is protected because she is so powerful. Storm to steal a lane, ideally with Nebula, but also just fine, works just fine with like Star-Lord and Jeff. Spider-Man and Professor X to lock down a lane on 5. Enchantress to shut down the big things opponents play. Gamora and Magneto for the obvious reasons. Spider-Man, Professor X, Gamora for the Daredevil synergy, right? And Magneto for that last turn. If you don't know where they're going to play, you can move things out. Like, we're seeing a lot of Jessica Jones and Darkhawk. So pulling a Jessica Jones out of a Storm deck with Magneto often wins that Storm lane from them when they're not ready for it. It's a great way to win big cubes. Yeti's awesome. We love Savage Yeti. Big props to hitting Infinite with this really, really cool build. Guardians, T1 meta, 57% win rate or so. 58% win rate. Yeah, stellar deck. Okay. The last 2 decks are completely untested. Straight up. You'll see why as we go. I famously refused to buy Galactus, but this is what I've been scared of. This exact deck is what I've been scared of as we waited for Iron Lad. I did a video on it last week, again linked in the description, about how I thought Iron Lad with Nimrod was going to bust Galactus wide open. Well, this is the first version of it. I have absolutely no idea who made it. Props to Jay Blue, who I'm stealing this from. 55 win rate with a 0.34 cube rate, which is like solid B+ range deck. B+ range deck in that general area. It's got all sorts of Venom shenanigans. It's got Galactus, but it doesn't have to play him. It's almost impossible if this deck gets a reasonable curve to play around both Galactus and Nimrod Destroyer. If you can't play around both, you're going to be losing some cubes. This is an unrefined first draft version. It's already winning 55% of its games. It is terrifying. Fundamentally, what this does is it says either I can shenanigans into Shuri, Nimrod, and then last turn I can Venom and Carnage, right? If I'm Venom and Carnaging on that last turn, holy crap, those Nimrods are flying all over the place. I've got like 40 power spreading across the board, and plus my gigantic Venom for another like 13 power that's sticking right where it was. Just nuts power there, right? You've also got Bucky and Wolverine and other cards like that in those spots as ways for that power. Or you can last turn just Shuri, Nimrod, Destroyer, and say 15 in one lane, 10 in the other 2. Good luck. Iron Lad also hitting Nimrod makes that silly. If you go Iron Lad, Nimrod, Destroyer, Jesus. Just Jesus. The power across the board. The other thing this can obviously do is just turn 6 Galactus. You've got Nimrod in a couple places, Wolverine on the board, and an empty lane. Drop a Galactus, take your cubes, have a great day. Stupidly powerful deck. I'm very nervous about how this looks going forward. I would be very surprised if this isn't nerfed in a month or so. Last deck we're going to talk about today. And I just want to scroll down because I've never seen this deck played. But 200 games, 58 win rate, 0.76 cubes. This deck is crazy cool. It is basically saying, I'm going to go super wide with high power. Cool? This is the new Venom list. Venom was just buffed, and I want to highlight a Death Wave, right? I think Death Wave is stellar, but Glenn is teasing that Wave is going to get some kind of nerf. This deck should basically immediately be able to overpower an absolute ton of the meta. You've got tons of ways to get a bunch of power with Deadpool. If you don't see Deadpool, you probably scoop. But you don't have to, right? Because between Bucky, Carnage, Venom, and Killmonger, you've probably got a decent sized null. Debris is really, really spicy here. A, it counters other Galactuses and powers up your null, but B, it's a really, really sweet way of making your death cheaper while clogging up the opponent's boards as you decide to get there. It's not bothering with waves, so you have to get death cheap on your own, but that shouldn't be absolutely terrible. Once that death is cheap, your last turn of Deadpool death should win you the high majority of games. You're not going to be able to null and Deadpool in the last turn, but a lot of times your turn 5 will just be like a 8 to 10 power Deadpool with a nice 4 cost death, and then last turn you can null for some crazy amount. You could also potentially just Venom them if you can get them out early and then drop null on top of that. There have been a ton of really powerful Venom decks. I don't think it's the +2 power that's making Venom that much stronger. I mean, to be completely honest, I think he was there, and this was just an impetus for people to really try him, to really push him. And once he's been pushed, well, we're finding out how powerful he is. I also don't have null. I will have null in a couple of weeks. There's versions of this that are running like bounce packages with null and Venom and what's his name, and Yondu that I'm really excited to try. There's 1,000 versions of this. As of like Wednesday, I will have null. Either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday's video is going to be my experiences with a null bounce deck. Again, Galactus' gameplay has no interest for me, at least until he's nerfed or changed in some way. But this is a deck I'm going to try, and the win rate right now is absolutely through the roof. That's it for the day. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday. I'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, for a bunch of cool decks to play once you hit Infinite, because if you've been watching every day, guys, you're going to get there. Have a wonderful day. Happy Monday. Happy Patch Eve.